Hello everybody, welcome to the Carole Nash Classic Bike Guide Winter Show 2012. We're here with Steve Plater, guest of honour at the show this year. We're going to have a chat with you, Steve, about your racing career, past, present and future. You up for it?
Yes.
Right, let's get on with this then and find out what's going on in the Plater brain. So Steve, let's start off then with a condition check, because over the past couple of seasons you've had some horrific injuries to overcome. How are you now? How are you getting on? And bring us up to speed.
Mentally perfect. Physically...
I am moments to rebuke that. Mentally perfect. No, but physically how are you?
No, physically, things are going really good. I'm kind of satisfied with my recovery so far, but I just want to be a bit better. So I've just had another checkup with the specialist, and it's looking like I'm going in for one more operation on my arm just to fix some more nerve damage to the bicep. Everything's been going really good. My last operation was an 11-hour op, which was very successful, fortunately, on some nerve damage, but this time they're going to go in, unfortunately, cut through my collarbone, graft another nerve in to make the bicep work, basically, and then plate and screw and then get on with life as normal.
Yeah, for those people who aren't au fait with what happened in terms of the last big crash, just tell us about that.
Just before the Alaman TT at Thruxton British Superbike meeting at Church Corner, probably one of the fastest corners on BSB calendar actually. A wet race, starting to dry, high side with a few laps to go, and I crashed, but unfortunately the guy behind, Christian Eden, no fault of his, couldn't go anywhere and ran into me. And I'm not sure whether it was his bike or my bike, ran over my arm a few times as we were running off the track. Which caused 3 breaks into my arm, and some of the breaks in the bones severed some nerves, so making it quite a technical injury, really.
About as messy as they get, really, wasn't it? That crash for you. I remember being in the paddock at the time, and everybody just saying how complicated a fall it was. It wasn't where you fall off the bike, slide, get up and walk away.
Yeah, you know, it's the same old story. With many crashes, there's an awful lot of luck involved, and this wasn't the luckiest, because the actual impact in the crash wasn't really a big deal. It was just getting tangled up with the machines, but you know, that's life. You have to live with it. It's self-inflicted, so it's just, you have to be positive and get on with it, and obviously work alongside the medical staff and then the surgeons that. And then for the repatriation, obviously, make sure everything's right and going the right way. I really don't want to focus just on crashes, but I want to get it out of the way nice and early with this, because tell us also about the Northwest crash, because that, I only highlight that because that was, I guess, the biggest of your life. Tell us what happened there and the rebuild. The reason I'm doing this, Steve, is to make people aware of the journey that you've come over the past couple of years. Yeah, the last 18 months has been quite hectic in medical terms. I've had 9 operations, the next one will be the 10th and hopefully the last. Northwest 100 was going very well. You know, I've come off the back of 5 wins there. I was on pole position after Tuesday night qualifying, went out on Thursday night, spitting with rain slightly, so a little bit hesitant, and decided to bang a pass lap in. Grip seemed okay, but as I headed towards the last chicane on the end of the lap to the finish line, touched the front brake in a very fast section, lost the front, went down.
How fast, when you say very fast?
4th gear on a superbike, so you'd be talking 140 mile an hour. Now the first thing that flicked into my mind was to make sure I could get over the curb that was coming, because curbs are a big, obviously, pelvis breaker. That I managed to do very well, but it flipped me up in the air and turned me around 180 degrees, and the last I can remember was just before going through the fence. But luckily, was in between 2 telegraph poles that were only kind of 5 metres apart, so again was very lucky. When I finally came round after everything that happened, unfortunately I had no feeling from the waist down. Was in and out of consciousness. The paramedics did a fantastic job and pumped me full of, it wasn't morphine, they said it was better than morphine, and it was good gear. But did a fantastic job, and luckily for me I was in and out of consciousness for the next few hours, so it wasn't until probably 4 or 5 hours later I started to get some feeling back, which was the best feeling in my life, in all fairness. Yeah. But off the back of that, the next day I had an operation on my arm to plate radius and ulnar in my left arm. Discharged myself to get back to England to see my own specialist for a second opinion, just to be safe. Went for a scan a few days later, at Lincoln Hospital, and they found that I'd broken my neck, broken C6 in half, and it actually slid out 30 mil, so I was a very, very lucky guy.
C6 is basically in the neck part, isn't it? You hear of the different sections, but it's fairly much at the base.
5 and 6 is just here, at this part of the neck, which is the most important part of the spine, really. They pretty much control most things that go on within your body. And if it had already slid out 30 mil, if it had come right out, the only thing I'd have been doing for the rest of my life, if I'd have survived, was drinking through a straw.
Wow. Incredible for a racer to have to come back from those sorts of things. And really, at a time in your career, with the roads, where you were going from strength to strength. Again, I don't want to be negative about this, Steve, but I want to look at your career and, on the roads, you'd achieved some pretty amazing things in what, in reality, was a fairly small period of time.
In a very short time, as far as the Isle of Man TT is concerned, the Northwest 100 took me quite some time. I had many rostrums, but was just really struggling to put it to bed and get that fancy win. But once I started winning, I couldn't stop. And off the back of that, I'd obviously been to Macau 3 or 4 times, and I was actually unbeaten at Macau. Every race I finished, I broke down once when I rode a 500V twin there, but every other race I was actually unbeaten. But off the back of those results, finally decided to go to the Isle of Man TT in 2007 for the centenary, purely to enjoy the event, see how I liked it through practice, and go from there, really.
Was there any pressure on you at that point? Or did you go with Honda's blessing? Was it a case of, look,
no,
go and have a look, have a sniff, and if you fancy it, then we'll talk?
I had a good understanding at the time. I wasn't with Honda, I was with AIM Yamaha.
Sorry, AIM Yamaha.
So I did a deal with the organiser of the TT, which they were fantastic, and I said to them, look, I'm going to come along, do practice, and I'm not going to spin you any yarn. If I'm not happy or scared after practice, I'm going to go home. That wasn't an issue, that was fine. Not that I ever thought I would be, but it was just in case. Got through practice, was fantastic, was very happy the way things were going. It's a massive, massive learning curve, obviously 37 miles. Really enjoyed it. I was riding a super bike, a super sport and a super stock bike purely to get as many miles in as possible around the circuit. Things were going really good. I got a replica for every race, and my last race, the senior, I think it was on a Saturday actually in 2007, I did 125.8 miles per hour, which is the fastest ever lap time, and still is, for a newcomer at a TT. So yeah, happy days. And then I had to make a decision from there whether to go back again. Now the only reason to go back in my mind was to win. So I thought, okay, I'll set myself a 3-year plan to go back to the TT and try and win one of the races there. Fortunately for me, I carried on with my trips backwards and forwards to the Isle of Man to keep learning, and sure enough, in the Supersport race in 2008, the following year, I won that race and beat Bruce Anstey. Was actually excluded. He won the race, and I think if Bruce would have been riding a mountain bike, he'd have still won that race. He was just on it that day, and that's Bruce. But for me, the most important part was I took 5 seconds out of McGuinness over the mountain on the last lap to finish second at the time and to go on to win the race. So that was probably the best feeling. Astonishing
performance, given that it was your second year at the TT. There are people who will go through their whole careers, never having won a race, never get the sniff of the podium.
Yeah.
When did it sink in what you'd achieved? I mean, when you crossed the line, you assumed you were in second, because the technical irregularity that got Bruce excluded from the results.
I actually thought I was third,
right,
because John was in
because
front.
John was so far
John was
ahead.
second place, and John's a TT
D-man.
legend. John had an issue, I think, with the steering damper or something, but he wasn't going. He was far from slow, but I was very fast over the mountain that last lap, and finally came through to second place, which was then awarded first place when Bruce's bike was found to be not complying with the rules.
Take us on to the following year at the TT, 2009.
Midway through 2008, I'd already signed a deal with Honda to compete in the British Supersport, the Northwest 100, and also the Isle of Man TT. So kind of I was settled and sorted.
Nice for a racer, that, isn't it? To know what you're doing the following
mentally
season.
It's fantastic.
You can start preparing that early.
You can prepare, focus on everything, not just the riding, from clothing, everything that goes with it. Backing. So it was really good. We started off the season and ended up being very kind of hectic with Josh Brooks, my teammate on the Superbike, not turning up because of visa problems. I had to ride the first round Brands Hatch on Supersport and Superbike, jump in the motorhome, go to the Le Mans for a 24-hour and test there, come back midweek for a test at Castle Queen for the TT, drive back to Le Mans, finish qualifying and race, and drive back for round 2 of the BSB on Supersport. So busy times.
Nice problem for a racer to have in some respects, because
for me, it's
there
fantastic.
are racers out there who don't get much time on the bike before the start of the season.
For me, it was fantastic, and because I'm very adaptable to different machines, that was riding the Superbike at Brands Hatch on Pirelli and the Supersport on Pirelli, driving to France to Le Mans to qualify and practice Le Mans on factory Michelins on the Honda, driving to Castle Queen to test on the Dunlops, back to Le Mans for the race on Michelins, and back to the UK for Pirellis on. So it was, for me, it's very satisfying also. And every race is a podium.
But not easy. Not easy to switch tyre manufacturers, because perhaps what a lot of people don't appreciate is the very different feel of different tyre manufacturers. They could be made in the same mould, they could be made out of what's apparently a similar compound, but they feel so different.
Massively. And tyres are everything, because obviously tyres give you the confidence, and the confidence in many different things in life. If you're on top of things and happy, you're on top of the world, and it makes life much easier.
So on top of the world, life fairly easy. I can't imagine you think life will be ever easy when you go into an Isle of Man TT.
Never.
But you were going there again, and this time you were going there as a TT winner.
Yeah, without doubt. And obviously, no real pressure directly from anybody at Honda or the organisers, but massive amount of pressure from myself to perform. In my mind, I'm with the best team, on the best bikes, on the best tyres for the Isle of Man TT. We went to the Northwest. I won both the Superbike race. Sorry, I won the Superbike and the Supersport race, I think. So I was happy with my TT bike there, Superbike and Supersport. Went along to the TT and was kind of no real issues through practice. The weather had been quite kind. Supersport races had gone well. Hadn't performed fantastic. I had a podium, a second place behind McGuinness in the first Superbike race, 1 or 2 other podiums, and I'd had quite a lot of 4th places, so I was getting a little bit frustrated, but I was mainly frustrated with the first half a lap of every race. For me, to get your head round, getting up in the morning at 8 o'clock, getting rid of the nerves, making sure everything's ready, leathers, helmet, boots, everything for the race at the start, at midday to start up on the grandstand, and then walking up to the grandstand, throwing a leg over the bike and having to be on lap record pace from the very start to even get on the podium. It's just
I know
unbelievable.
you and I have had this conversation before, and I know a lot of other riders do, but they say that a lot of John McGuinness's strength is that period of time, coming up to getting on the bike. And remember, that is the first time he's getting on that bike in front of a massive crowd, blocking everybody out, and from the start, going like a scolded cat.
Exactly. So for me to do the first lap of the senior in 2009, I did 130.454. Awesome. For me, that was one of the best parts of that race.
130 mile an hour,
yeah,
first lap from a standing start.
When
were you aware that you'd done that? I mean, does it work on the dash? Does it come up and show you what you've got?
Not at all.
Can you see it anywhere? Have you got boards out? Are you aware at any point?
I have a signal in 2 places. One at Ballacrane, it's actually John's pitboard man. If he's got time, he pitboards me as well. And my father was pitboarding.
What's Dad saying? Go faster.
I'll tell you about Dad later. But no, so I wasn't really aware of any lap times because I don't really care about lap times. It's purely.
But did you know it felt good? Do you feel on it?
Yeah, it felt good. Well, the things with a TT, when it doesn't particularly feel fast, but if everything clicks and is easy, then the momentum builds, and all of a sudden the time comes to you. As soon as you start trying to extract the time from the road or from the machine, that's when you slow down or cause yourself danger. So it's very important to be relaxed and at one with the machine and the circuit. So I was aware of it after my first pit stop after 2 laps. The guys had said, good first lap, blah, blah. And I was just trying to put a bit of pressure on John, because there's many other fast guys there for sure, but John's the man, without doubt. And John was ahead on the road, so I pushed and pushed as hard as I could. John did his usual thing. He put his head down and went as fast as he could and pulled out a gap on me. But unfortunately for John, 3.5 laps in at Ramsey, snapped the chain. The bike was running good, but snapped the chain, and that was John out of the race. So when I returned after lap 4 from a pit stop, I pulled in and I said, "Where am I?" They said, "You're going to be your first." What? I said, "Where's John? Where's John?" "John's out." I said, "Is he okay?" "Is he okay?"
Yeah,
He said,
yeah.
"Yeah, he's fine, he's fine. There's no problem." And with that, it was time to go. So away I went, and they were probably the longest 75 miles of my life.
Really,
Yeah.
As you were going down Bray Hill then, as you came out of the pits after that second pit stop, you got 2 laps ahead of you. This was the senior, the main rival, the man that you're using as your yardstick and targeting. If you're within the gnats of John McGuinness, you're on it, and he's just gone out with a mechanical, so he's okay. So in a way, you can be kind of happy that he's out. But as you're going down Bray Hill, what's going through your mind?
Yeah, as soon as the guy said he was okay, I was happy anyway.
Yeah.
But anything can happen. The TT is the biggest test for man and machine worldwide, without shadow of a doubt. Much more than even a 24-hour race for a machine. Very important. But all I kept saying to myself was, keep it smooth. Really, really was. Keep it smooth and just hit all the apexes, get on the gas early, and life be a dream.
So as you were doing that, as you were keeping it smooth and going around, was there an element of satisfaction, or were the nerves building more? They say that the last lap of a championship win, as you're coming around, you're hearing all different things on the bike, and you're feeling all different vibrations that you've never felt before. What was it like coming around over the mountain for the final time?
You can't really. I'll get back to my dad in a moment. Unbelievable. You hear every little noise, everything, and obviously you're paranoid, because also in that race there was, I can't remember what lap it was on, but there was some oil down. I think it was on the 4th or 5th lap, but there was some oil down on the run down to Quarter Bridge. Hudgy crashed on it. The marshals are fantastic, the flags were out and everything, and you could actually see where the run of oil was, but for some reason Hudgy decided to push very hard and go across the oil, and down he went. And I rode around it like an old man on the Vespa scooter, completely upright, with trying to take no risk whatsoever. And actually didn't lose that much time really through doing that. But anything can happen, especially at the TT. Anything can happen. So I was just trying to keep it as smooth as possible. Fortunately, the only other bad part was Bruce Anstey blew up in front of me in the distance over the mountain, which was quite daunting, but fortunately his bike kept all the oil in the belly pan, so there was no danger side for me. But of course you don't know that for half a mile until you get there.
No, of course.
But apart from that, the only other thing was I had my last pit signal on the last lap after the tram lines, and my dad was there with his pit board, and he hurriedly boarded me and stuck his thumb up, and then unbeknown to me he ran. My dad's like a 19 stone unfit, then a 69, 70-year-old fella. He ran across the grass back to the tram, pushed everybody out of the way, got on the front, back down to the bottom just to get back to the podium in time.
Brilliant. When your dad, I'm surprised, didn't take the tram over. It's like driving it himself.
But no, it was fantastic. Obviously, from the Craig to the finish line was just awesome, but I couldn't get there quick enough. I just wanted to get there, turn the bike off and soak up the atmosphere. It was fantastic, it really was. And obviously you're listening to every little noise, anything that could possibly go wrong. You're trying to short shift and take care of everything, and more so than usual, and just incredible.
That last bit where you go around Governor's Bridge, you sort of drop right, and then you go back around. It's trees, and it can just be one of those little gnarly things where if you're not concentrating, it can still bite you. We've seen people fall off there.
Massively, yeah.
But were you concentrating? Did you make yourself concentrate on the sections of the track? Was that how you got through it, or did you allow yourself just to drift off slightly by the time you got to Governor's, the very last flick flag?
Never stop concentrating until you get over the line.
Yeah.
Especially at the TT, it really is. That counts for anywhere, but the Alaman TT is so fast and it's so important. But even on the slow sections, down through where you're talking Governor's, it is a section for me where I can make up time on people. So you can't afford to slow down too much, just in case somebody's coming hard, But yeah, what a feeling crossing the line. But it's weird because obviously, it's not weird, but it's so busy. You finish the race, pull off a circuit. I've just probably achieved it's the greatest achievement of my career for sure. So you run around the road, come to the podium. Obviously, all the guys there, TV, interviews. Across the hospitality to the interviews.
Well, for people who perhaps haven't seen it before, we should explain that with the TT, you sort of cross the line and you come back down what is essentially a concrete footpath, where there are thousands of people then lined up applauding you as you're coming back. So it's not like pulling into a Parc Fermé where there's your team and maybe 3 or 4 other people applauding you. These are thousands of people, hundreds of people sitting there, all cheering you on, and all you can do is flick your visor up and sort of try and take it in, I guess.
Didn't see one of them.
Did you really?
You don't see one of them.
You were
Because
crying?
obviously-
You were that emotional?
Oh, for sure, yeah. And there's that many things going through your mind, and of course, it's at that moment it's playtime time because it's so intense.
Yes.
For the Ironman TT, you do not have to be physically fit; you have to be mentally fit, and it's so intense. But also, as soon as you cross the line, pull off, you can then start focusing on obviously what you've kind of just achieved, what's going on, and the emotions start to build up because it's an emotional time to finish a race there after 6 laps anyway, without winning. Fabulous, but you're still not. You still don't get time to yourself to think. So you pull in, do the podium thing. Obviously, all the guys are their team, fantastic, because it's a team. It is a team effort, and they've done just as good a job as me. And then finish with the podium, down to hospitality to speak with all the helpers, sponsors, and the organisers.
Bit of autopilot at the moment?
Still,
yeah.
Back to check on your team and the team, and everything's gone good. The scrutiny has gone good. There's not any issues with the bike, which there never is with a Honda, to be honest. And that's it. Go get cleaned up, ready for presentation. So you get the presentation. Obviously, it's still busy. Chip. You kind of keep trying to keep out of the way a little bit, but it's still busy and things are buzzing around. Not a minute to yourself. Then when it's all over, okay, right, give me Dad a call because my dad's don't know where he is. Dad's partying somewhere, peaking. And where are you, Dad? He said, I'll meet you down the front. So I walk from the paddock all the way down to the front. It's the best walk of your life. Turn the phone off, and just talking to yourself, thinking and reminiscing about different things about the race, and suddenly dawning what you've just achieved, which is a fantastic, obviously, achievement. And even people like Michael Rutter, Michael's won a Supersport race in his time at a TT quite some time ago now, but he said, I'd give anything to win a senior TT.
Well, there's people out there, aren't there, racing at the TT now who've publicly said they would give anything to win any TT out there. And there's some guys out there who are hugely high profile. Outside of the sport, they're high profile. But, for them, they have yet to win a TT. At the time we're having this chat, and for them it must really irk. You've been out there and that you've done it in effectively 3 years.
Yeah, I was on Twitter a few nights ago, and there's something on there about Simon Andrew got quite close to my fastest ever newcomer time around the TT, which Simon did a very good job actually. But for sure that record would go. Bikes are getting better all the time, and tyres are getting better, and obviously Simon Andrews is a very good rider and adapted well with the TT. And I put on Twitter that obviously there's no doubting that record's going to go. It's been there for 5 years already, so it's going to go. But then the answer came back that obviously, but I don't think anybody else is going to win a TT in the second year and a senior in the third.
Not well, no. I'd agree with that. Who impresses you then on the roads? We've got a lot of young riders coming through now.
A massive amount.
It's the past few years of the TT has seen a real resurgence in it.
Yeah.
And quite rightly so. The organisers run it better than it's ever been run. The marshals are fantastic. The riders are really into it. Who's impressing
you? As you said, everything's moved on there in a massive way since 2005-6 time. It's moved on from the centenary, really.
Yes.
Not just because I started riding there, but it has massively moved on. The TV coverage is fantastic. ITV do a really good job there, but rider-wise, Dan Neem was really good this year. Connor Cummins is coming on very strong. After winning my senior in 2009, I wasn't there the following year because of an injury, but that year was very, very fast. Connor was very close to beating John McGuinness. Beating him fair and square, not just, and was really on the pace. But unfortunately had his crash at Veranda. Guy went down at Ballascary. And again, everybody's just pushing that a little bit too hard, maybe. I'm not sure. So last year was a little bit calmer, as in 2011. But there are quite a few riders that are coming on strong and pushing hard. And there seems to be an awful lot more interest in some of your top superbike riders coming to the TT.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely moving on now, isn't it? It's coming back into the pantheon of everybody's year, really, if they can get on with it.
As long as they're going for the right reason.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a rider who is there for the right reasons, and he's in British Superbikes this year, and that's Ian Hutchinson, coming back after that horrific crash at Silverstone that very nearly cost him his leg, but he is back. 5 times a TT winner in 1 week, never been done before. Let's face it, unlikely to be done again, given the amount of competition that's out there at the moment. What do you reckon to Hutchie? He's had a hell of a past 12 months. How do you think he'll come out in 2012?
It's very hard to say because the BSB for sure will be tougher in 2012 than 2011, I believe.
Why do you say that?
Because there's been a rule change. Teams are going to have to do an awful lot of testing to make sure the bikes are up there on the pace from the word go. Because I believe the pace will be the same as last year, even though the rules are a bit tighter. So data from last year is going to be not completely different, but very different to last year. So everybody's starting off a clean slate, really. And with that, obviously, Hutchie's coming from a big injury, massive injury. Hutchie was my teammate in 2008, and he's quite a sensitive rider. He's changed a lot since then. He's very fast. Obviously, the TT is phenomenal. It really is. Anybody can lap on a 130 mile an hour on a bike out of a showroom, basically, a superstar bike is. That's pretty special. It really is. And not just that. At the end of 2011, at the Macau Grand Prix, getting on the podium was fantastic. Coming back from his injuries and really surprised me, to be honest.
Incredible. When you think the amount of times that he went under the knife and was told beforehand, when you wake up you could have lost your leg. I think he said it was like 7 or 8 times he was told that.
Massively.
And then to come back after all of the rehabilitation, we saw him in the BSB paddocks every weekend, and to win. It says a lot about the mental strength of it.
Of course. But I do believe it's probably helped him in a way, to a certain degree, more for his British Championship style riding, because there's no arguing against Hutchie at the TT, or John McGuinness at the TT, for that matter, that they're not at the sharp end at the Northwest 200 or Macau, which is the mass start, elbow to elbow side, and for Hutchie to get, he's obviously with a good team, they're British champions for 2011. He's on a very good package, and he's got nothing really to prove. He's there to get himself bedded in. He'll obviously be focusing largely on the TT at the end of May. So, he'll try and bed himself nicely into practice out in Spain through the winter, get some more mileage, and obviously get some more use out of his leg, get some more fitness, and then hopefully he can build on that and prove how good he is at the short circuits as well as the TT.
It's interesting, isn't it, that with a lot of riders out there at the moment, World Endurance seems to have dropped off their radar. We talk about how much the TT has come back into their radar, but World Endurance doesn't seem to be as popular amongst the level of riders who are coming through. As somebody who's been vastly experienced in World Endurance, I mean, right from the very beginning with your time in World Endurance, what do you think that is?
Well, the World Endurance, teams will generally aim towards the older riders. They've been around a little bit of experience.
Less crash monsters.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of not the done thing to crash during a race. Qualifying's not an issue because obviously you're trying to get that ultimate lap for the start. But during a race, for the guys that are going to stay on board, adapt to any situation, any weather condition, any issue with the machine, because the machine changes over a 24-hour race.
There's teams out there, aren't there, who will go for a younger rider.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I remember seeing a young lad with a daft haircut back in '95, riding for Phase 1 in Rob Holden's leathers.
Oh yeah, for sure. And obviously...
That was you, wasn't it?
And obviously I'm only...
A young rider.
I'm only 35 now, so I must have been very young then. 32, I think you are now, aren't you? But, when was that? I mean, that was 95, 96, wasn't it, that you rode for Phase 1? I think that was 1995 or 95 it would have been.
95, right. So when we first met in the paddock, it was 95. You were out there deputising for Rob Holden in the Phase 1 team. You weren't an older rider. You weren't a rider with an awful lot of experience, be honest about it, because you came into racing fairly late.
Yep.
How old were you when you started racing?
25.
25.
25.
So you although you've just said that about the World Endurance,
but
your own experience, you tick different boxes.
Even though I started at 25, I was a very aggressive I was a very aggressive rider basically. All elbows and pushing very hard. And had my fair share of crashing without doubt, but it was a steep learning curve. I went very fast from starting racing to getting into British Championship and riding for Honda Supersport team for Honda in the UK, so it's kind of a quick change around and an awful lot to learn in a short time. But to answer your question with endurance, there's most of the front runners there have either raced GP or World Superbike or World Championship at some level. But the ones that are successful as in champions or winning races, are the riders that can adapt to anything, any kind of riding style. In fact, any kind of riding to a certain degree. You know, a former world champion, for instance, Matthew Legreve, that's rides for Suzuki. He's now with Yamaha. Very good rider, very fast, quite young, world endurance champion. Has won World Supersport races, and has been competing in the Dakar this year also. Unfortunately, he broke his foot and is out, but that's racing.
That is racing. So you think it's more the ability to turn your hand to anything? That's the endurance thing. Why is it then that riders don't look at this as something they should work towards on their radar? Because surely, if you can do some world endurance, the skills you need for that to be successful will help you anywhere you want to go. Be it the roads, be it the Ulster, be it the Northwest, be it the TT, or be it British Championship.
Massively, you know, and obviously, world endurance is very big in France, and also is very popular in Germany. It visits Spain, Japan for the 8-hour. So for the manufacturers, it's a very important championship, and is getting more and more so over the last couple of years as well. BMW now have got a very factory outfit in world endurance. Suzuki have, Yamaha have got 2 teams. Honda's obviously there now with the TT Legends team. So there's an awful lot of interest from the manufacturers. But you know, it's one of those things. It's a big test for the machines. It's obviously good for development and marketing, having success there. So as far as manufacturers are concerned, it's something that they want to be involved in. To answer your question with riders, I think in the UK, a lot of the guys get the blinkers on with the BSB Championship. It's the best national championship in the world, but it isn't World Championship. And they need to open their eyes and move on to bigger things sooner in their careers.
Try and get out into Europe a little bit more and get spotted that way. Yeah.
Which isn't easy, by far.
Absolutely not, especially like you say with the British domestic scene being so good.
Yep.
It's easy to find yourself concentrating on that universe, I guess, rather than looking further afield.
Of course it is, yeah. It was a little bit different for me because I was 25 when I started racing. In fact, the first year I was 26 when I started. But so I knew at that time I was never going to. By the time I realised I was good enough to do this job for a living and compete in the British Championship, I knew I was always going to be too old to take that next level to the World Championship. Yeah, whether it be World Superbike or World Supersport.
I don't know, you haven't done too bad, have you, for an old man?
Oh no! I'm not very. I'm very happy with what I've achieved so far. But yeah.
Do you have to find yourself looking back and thinking, what if I jumped on a bike at 18?
Never. People ask me that question many times, you know, and but obviously I was a brickie for 10 years, working all over the UK on piste. We had some fantastic times. I was involved, or was a member of a bike club called Trent Valley Motorcycle Club, and went off to watch the GPs at Assen and various other places, and just had some really good times, met an awful lot of people, and I would have missed out on all of that if I'd have started racing when I was 16 or 18.
And you would have been a very different racer at that period of your life, and who knows what would have happened.
Yeah,
you would have been more aggressive or whatever, or too headstrong.
So I'm very happy I started a little bit later in life, and did some of the normal things in life, drinking, dancing.
Stop there. Right, let's look forward then. What's going on with Steve Plater now? You're here wearing the TT Legends and the Honda Racing top. I know you do some work with Honda. But what's happening with you now? Where can we see you next? What can we expect from Steve Plater?
At the moment, I'm waiting for my next operation, hopefully my last operation. And I just want to get that out of the way and obviously get the best from that for life in general, not just racing motorcycles. I'm
very difficult to work out what you're doing racing until you get that operation out of the way, isn't it?
It's very hard for me to make a decision for until the end of for the next month probably, because I've got an operation. I'm still doing an awful lot of instructing out in Spain and out in Europe, so I'm doing a lot of riding, a lot of mileage. There's nothing wrong with riding at the moment, and for sure if I jumped on a race bike I could be very competitive right now. Fast enough, I think, or good enough to be competitive, but not strong enough to crash. That's the problem. So I must make sure that everything's right before I have any ideas of competing again. I've got various offers to do different things, but I've got to be sensible because I'm not interested in competing, I'm interested in winning.
Yes, absolutely, which we've seen from you over
Yeah.
many years. Well, Steve, whatever you do next, we wish you all the very best. Hopefully you can go out there and keep fighting your way through the crowds at the Newark show. But thanks for talking to us, really appreciate it.
Thank you.